From the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C., this is NewsVision, a newscast written, reported, and produced by Capstone journalists in the Department of Media, Journalism, and Film.
Good afternoon. I'm Zoe Warner.
And I'm Gregory Lloydon Coleman.
Thank you for joining us for our NewsVision newscast, where we deliver the hard-hitting and heartwarming stories happening in our nation's capital and beyond.
This newscast will focus on the stories that are happening locally here in D.C. Our top story tonight: Israel has agreed to a humanitarian pause on attacks on Gaza for 4 hours per day. This is to allow for civilians to flee the city, and this comes on the heels of discussions between Israeli and U.S. officials, including talks between Israel President Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Joe Biden. Israel has yet to agree to a ceasefire.
In the meantime, thousands gathered in the nation's capital last weekend to protest against the U.S.'s aid to Israel, while also demanding a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas. People from all demographics and backgrounds attended the march, making sure their voices were heard. NewsVision reporter Alyssa was there for the march and has the story.
We have every right to fight for our self-determination and to fight for liberation from the river to the sea.
On Saturday, November 4th, 2023, tens of thousands of Palestinian supporters marched in Washington, D.C., demanding a ceasefire in the fight between Israel and Hamas, along with urging President Biden to stop U.S. aid to Israel.
People of all ages, races, cultural identities are here at the Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C., and they're here to tell you why.
Show solidarity with them, to show the support as much as I could. And this is really the least we can do is come out and protest.
There are so many of us here from all over the country that came to march for one reason. We want to end all U.S. aid to Israel. Our tax dollars are funding genocide, apartheid, and ethnic cleansing. And it's about time we say that enough is enough.
The protesters marched from Freedom Plaza to the front of the White House gates.
Regardless of your class, race, gender, anything, people with any kind of human consciousness have got to call for a stop to this, a ceasefire.
While others are saying a ceasefire is simply not enough.
Not just a ceasefire, an end to U.S. aid, an end to the settler colonial regime, an end to apartheid.
With Howard University NewsVision, I'm Alyssa.
The march was one of the largest pro-Palestine protests to date in the U.S. since the Israel bombardment of Gaza began. This was in response to the surprise attack by Hamas militants last month.
The Morgan State homecoming shooting has sent shockwaves across collegiate campuses. One in particular is paying close attention as their own homecoming is coming up in 2 weeks.
Morgan State's homecoming was officially canceled as of October 5th in light of the tragic shooting that took place Tuesday after the royal coronation. A shooting that left 5 people injured, 4 of whom were students, none of which were involved in the alleged conflict that led to the shooting, according to Baltimore police. I spoke with Howard student Brian Woodley Jr., who was on Morgan's campus and witnessed firsthand the traumatic event transpiring.
We just felt shards of glass just hit our bodies. At first, we thought somebody had dropped something, but as we started to look around, we started to notice that people were ducking and people started to run, and you can see students outside in their ball gowns just banging on the glass for help.
The shooting on the campus of Morgan State has left a lasting impact on HBCU campuses across the country. I asked Howard University students to share their initial reactions when they first heard the tragic news and how it personally left an impact on them.
My immediate reaction was that it was something sad and unfortunate that happened, and I just wanted to pray for them, like all the students that was injured and everybody that was just on campus and traumatized and just scared of it. I felt bad for them. I really did.
I was actually very devastated because I have family members and I have friends who also go to Morgan, so I was just really shocked, and I called all of them to make sure that they were okay.
My little god sister goes to Morgan, so my first thought was to text her and make sure she was okay. Once that was confirmed, it was just praying for the people there.
The Howard police officials I spoke with couldn't yet give comment to the potential safety measures being discussed for homecoming, a matter that the Howard community will be paying close attention to, as campus safety has been an ongoing topic this school year.
Police arrested a 17-year-old suspect in the case. He faces multiple charges, including counts of attempted murder. Police say there is a warrant for a second 18-year-old suspect.
Gen Z is constantly being labeled as the generation who came out the womb with the cell phone. Well, it looks like this advanced upbringing is having a significant effect on their ability to stay focused in school. NewsVision Starr Garner has the story.
Gen Z, also known as the I generation, is defined as anyone born between 1997 and 2012. According to a study done by Microsoft, the generation's average attention span of 8 seconds is attributed to their upbringing alongside mobile devices. With YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Snapchat being their most used social platforms, Gen Z averages 7.2 hours of video watching a day.
Was I saying something? This is a prime example of how technology can cause a lack of focus in Gen Z. I spoke with University of Maryland student Morgan Chakra on how his cell phone affects his ability to pay attention in class.
It affects me personally on a very major scale. I know when I'm in class and I get bored, my first thing to do is to go look at my phone. And when I look at my phone, I'm usually sucked in it for at least 20-30 minutes. Next thing I know, class is over.
I later spoke with Howard University broadcast journalism professor Dr. Christine McWhorter about the usage of mobile devices in her classroom amongst her students.
Early on in my teaching, I noticed that it was a big problem, and that was frustrating, that I could clearly see that students were on social media even while I was teaching, and they weren't able to pay attention in class.
Just like technology, Gen Z may have to work out a few bugs when it comes to staying focused. I'm Starr Garner for HU NewsVision.
Over the last 2 decades, the human attention span has decreased from 12 to 8 seconds, exactly 1 second less than a goldfish. Isn't that crazy, Greg?
That's kind of insane, to say the least. The use of artificial intelligence is on the rise and has become a growing concern for administrators in the classroom. According to a recent survey from Best Colleges, 43% of college students, wow, 43%, have used AI applications for assignments and exams, and AI has given students relief from schoolwork. Many of us may not remember that it was members of Gen Z who helped launch much of the civil rights movement, Zoe.
Yeah, wow, that's great. That's right, Gregory. One day after commemorating the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton gave the message at Howard University's Rankin Chapel.
Sharpton renewed the call to action as he says the issue for Black America are as prevalent as ever. NewsVision reporter Ginger Mattison covered the chapel event.
Reverend Al Sharpton joins Howard University's Andrew Rankin Memorial Chapel Sunday as a guest speaker following Saturday's commemoration of the 60-year anniversary of the pivotal March on Washington.
So yesterday, the dreamers were on the Mall March. The schemers that the fingerprinted mugshot.
Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, which Sharpton is a member of, supported the Reverend both Saturday and Sunday, stating being a beacon of light in moments like these to be the reason for their activism.
So I think it's really important for us to continue to be intentional about how we take steps forward and not take steps back, reflecting on what has not worked and seeing what we need to intentionally change that.
Although Howard welcomes Reverend Sharpton every year, many believe this appearance to be necessary due to the anniversary's call to action for the next generation.
And I think that movements are about from generation to generation. I just hope that we made them proud of what we did yesterday and what we continue to do in our work.
With festivities winding down in Washington, D.C., Reverend Al Sharpton reminds us that this weekend is not just a commemoration, but a continuation. With NewsVision, this is Ginger Mattison.
With that, we'd like to thank you all for tuning in to our afternoon newscast and hope that you return to us for more accurate, fair, and heartfelt news happening in your community. I'm Gregory Lloydon Coleman.
And I'm Zoe Warner, and this is HU NewsVision.